every time I'm on the river, I see something different. I'm inspired to think about something different every time I come down. In a desert environment like what we live in the West, rivers are everything.
Most everything we see and experience at Dinosaur National Monument has some connection to its rivers, either the Green, the Yampa, or to prehistoric rivers that once flowed across this land in the Jurassic period.
So about 150 million years ago, here in the late Jurassic, there were many animals living on a really lush environment, had a lot of water and a lot of food to eat, and then over time, a drought happened, and the animals started to die. After a period of time, the rains returned, and this actually washed some of the carcasses into the river and covered them up with sediment. And this preserves them as fossils.
Dinosaur National Monument is known for dinosaur bones, but there are actually over 20 different layers of sedimentary rock, each containing clues of past environments that show the presence and absence of water through time. We have everything from deserts and oceans and mud plains with rivers running through. All of these layers are stacked up on top of each other, one on top of the other on top of the other, until with so much pressure, those sediments become sedimentary rock. Little bits of life, plants and animals, are trapped inside as fossils. That's not where the story ends, though. Around the same time as the Rocky Mountains are uplifting, these rocks are also being uplifted. They're bending and folding in a way that there's a huge arch of rock that goes up and over Split Mountain. And in one of those layers, we have dinosaur fossils. With natural erosion, those bones were sticking out just enough for Earl Douglas to be able to see back in 1909.
Earl Douglas was a paleontologist that was hired by the Carnegie Museum of Natural History in Pittsburgh. He was walking these ridges, and he just happened to see the string of vertebrae that was starting to erode out. And they ended up staying here digging for 13 years and shipped back over 350 tons of dinosaur bones. The quarry here at Dinosaur National Monument, which is a draw worldwide, is because here we've got this surface that's kind of tilted up, almost vertical, and the bones are left in place. This was actually a dream that Earl Douglas had.
I hope that the government, for the benefit of science and the people, will uncover a large area, leave the bones and skeletons in relief, and house them. Earl Douglas, 1923.
From the quarry wall today, we can piece together the past, just as Earl Douglas did over a century ago. While the fossil-rich Jurassic layers are revered for good reason, the geologic story at Dinosaur goes even deeper. Some of the rocks exposed by the Green and Yampa rivers are nearly 1 billion years old. The deeper the river cuts, the more it reveals. The rivers have long been a sanctuary for life in a land of extremes. Despite the rugged terrain, water in the high desert environment has sustained people for over 10,000 years. Many cultures across Western North America hold deep connections to these rivers and landscapes.
We always looked at water as a sacred thing. Water is life. Without that water, we don't exist. One group would go through and they would put their message on the rocks. Another group would go through. Utes always tagged theirs with a horse or with the bear paw, because that's what we are known as, bear people. We still have connections to all of the plants and resources that we used to have. And those are all the medicines and things that will be needed to heal yourself. So what we say, bear medicine or bear power.
Jack was my great-grandpa, and he and his wife, Mary, they came from central Utah in 1902. Jack had been in trouble with the law, and the isolation was an appealing thing to him. It's really a harsh climate, and they relied a lot on the water holes, and water is scarce here.
We're lucky on this end of the mountain, we do have water. 1915 is when my folks started out. They worked hard, the homesteaders had to. I mean, they had to be very determined. Every move they made had to be towards food, basically. My grandmother said, in order to get to town, it took 4 days by horseback. It is a pretty piece of country, and it's just like, how did I happen to be able to land here?
From high above, we can see how remote Dinosaur is, hundreds of miles from population centers like Salt Lake City or Denver. When night falls far from the lights of the city, this remoteness gives Dinosaur truly dark skies.
When you float down the Yampa River, you feel something that's alive underneath you. You feel something that's untamed. You have to humble yourself in front of something like the Yampa.
Native Americans and early explorers first navigated these rivers without recorded maps. In the 1800s, trapper William Ashley and scientist John Wesley Powell took great risks to chart this region.
As Ashley and his party were wrecked here, and as we have lost one of our boats in the same place, we adopt the name Disaster Falls for the scene of so much peril and loss. John Wesley Powell, 1869.
Advances in boat design have changed what was once a treacherous journey into a challenging adventure. In the 1950s, plans were drawn up to build a dam downstream of Echo Park that would have submerged the Yampa River, the Green River, and most of Dinosaur's river canyons under 500 feet of water. The national effort to stop the Echo Park Dam is seen by some as the beginning of the modern conservation movement. Thanks to these efforts, the landscapes, life, and lessons within Dinosaur National Monument are still here today.
When people can experience the canyon, when people can explore the immensity of time that you feel in the canyon, you can't leave unchanged. There's something special here.